dream. So the book is out. It is available. If you have not purchased it, it's on Amazon. And so far, many people have read it across the globe. And this is one of the most resilient stories that can relate to all the diaspora here in America, especially if you're an immigrant, you're an African living in the USA, or even just African living in Africa in general as well. It talks about everything you need to know, like the culture norms, and also growing up, how the family and the tradition and the culture, how they raise their children, and a lot of the experiences that we have as well. And it's also good too for our American audience, or international audience, I would say. This will also give you a perspective of what life is like back home or for a diaspora here in the US, and some of the challenges and some of the victories that they do end up gaining throughout their lifetime as well. So this book is definitely for anyone, whether you are to relate to it or to understand a different culture dynamic, and also just yourself in general as an immigrant here in the US. Because some of us, we are born here, some of us, we are raised here as well. So there's a lot of inspiration, and it's just one of those that could answer many questions that you may have had through your lifetime, especially those that are hitting their teens and getting into their 20s as well. Because you know what they said, 20s is a year of challenges, trying to find out who you are as well. So this book has a lot to relate to that. So we're going to welcome on our guest, and for all of you that are very new to this channel, she's going to introduce herself to our audience, and then we're going to get to the whole point of it. So Nyadjo, welcome back to Tempo Africa TV.
Thank you.
So please introduce yourself. I know we had you here in our last interview. So for many of you that have not watched her, this is Nyadjo Tongyi. She was here and she talked about the books and why she wrote it and all the other relating things. So now we're going to touch back to some of the new things that's coming up in her life. So we're going to go ahead and have her introduce herself, and then we'll go on to what does she have coming up.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jamal. Thank you. I appreciate it, especially for a second time around. And this time is very, very special because I'm not only talking about the book, I'm also talking about the upcoming events for the book and where this is going. So I'm really excited to, I'm from South Sudan. I grew up in a refugees camp, just like many of you. I know you did too as well. Grew up in a refugees camp in Ethiopia. My family came to the US in 1999. And half of my young adulthood, teenage years, I spent it in Omaha, Nebraska. So Nebraska is home for me. But I left home. I was a very angry teen. Early in my 20s, I decided to join the Army right out of nursing school. I was 23 years old. I was a mother of a 7-year-old daughter, and we joined the Army. So I've been out of the community for quite some time until when I was writing this book, and the story that transpired for me to write this book is what brought me back to the community. So I'm back.
It's always a pleasure to have you back. So this is definitely one of the most phenomenal shows that we could share our stories. So there's always updates to give out to the people, especially when they see you and they heard your story for the first time. Yeah. It's very profounding to know, like, okay, how has things been going? Where does things lead to right now at this point? So as I was browsing through the book, I didn't get to read the whole thing, but I'm still working on it. And then we're going to come back again in the near future, and then I will give my whole review on the whole entire book. But I'm going to ask some of the few questions in like the beginning of the book. You talked a lot about the family, the culture, I mean just everything in general as a whole. And there were some, I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate to some of these, but I like that you brought up a lot about what it's like to be a girl. Yeah, what it's like to be a girl in our culture if we go to just the culture dynamic alone. And then you mentioned about, you had your mindset, like that's what, you want to be different. You want to change that cultural dynamic that puts us behind. And when you came to USA, you still carry that.
Yeah.
You know? And I like that. I like that because the first thing that came into my head is like, how did she set up her mind in Africa before she even came here? Because like some of us here, you see a different culture, or you have to see it first in order to know that, you know, what you're actually going through is something you want to change, if that makes sense. And then once you get here, then it's like your eyes are open to a different culture, to a different background. And then that's when like we're all set. Like for me, that's what I said. You know, I knew what I like and I knew what I wanted to do growing up.
Yeah.
But I guess because I was still like a child running around with barely any clothes on at the time, that I did not know what another society would be like until I got here. And then I was like, I like it here. I don't want to go back, you know?
I hear you.
Yeah. So I'm glad you really brought that up. So tell us, how did you get your mindset there in Africa before you came into this country?
I think it's because as a refugee child, we were already exposed to education, you know. Of course, when we were in Dima, you were very, very young. But I had the opportunity to go to school from preschool all the way to 6th grade before I came to America. So I knew what it was like to know writing my name. I knew what it's like to read, and I desired that. I wanted to go to school. That was the most basic thing. Okay. That was the most basic thing that I knew I wanted. I wanted education for myself. Yeah. So when I came to America and I was exposed to arranged marriage, and I knew as soon as I get married, all I would do is to have kids, you know, and that would definitely mess with my desire to have an education. And, you know, so I fought that. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to have an education. And I give that credit back to the UN, you know, giving me that exposure to know that education is a key.
And it's crazy. The first time I discovered arranged marriage was my trip back to Ethiopia in 2012. Oh. They're like, oh, yeah, you're back. So, and you're not married. We're going to start, have you thought about getting married? And I said, no. And they're like, we're going to start looking for you a husband. And they already found one, actually. And that's where it hit me. And I was like, this is an arranged marriage, you know? So it's definitely some of us who grow up here, sometimes we don't feel like it still exists. Yeah. Until you go back home and then you're like, wow, this practice still exists. You know, it's still part of the culture and things of that nature. But we're very proud of you, you know, like you stood to your dream. You knew what you wanted, and you knew what you wanted to follow as well. And that's what got you here to today. Yeah. And not only that, she's going to Africa. So she's going to East Africa. There's going to be a tour. So she's having a book tour. She will be visiting a couple of different countries and large cities as well. Maybe including some of the camps. In schools and those areas. And when does that start?
That's a very good question, and I'm very excited to talk about it because this book has been very popular in such a short time. It's only been a year since it came out, and I literally get people asking me every single day, where can I get your book? I want your book. Please send me your book. So for the past 6 months, I've been working, saving money, and putting a plan together with a team to make sure that I bring this book to the people that really need it the most, the people that is where this whole thing started. I need to go back to Gambela. I need to go back to Juba. I need to go back to Addis. I need to go back to these places where those young girls and boys do not have access to online buying. They can't shop online and just, you know, put this on their shopping cart. So it's gonna take place. It's gonna start in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya, and it's gonna start June 17th. So June 17th is when we're gonna have our first official I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream book launch. And then we're just gonna tour the whole East Africa until August 10th. and then we come back to
So it's
America.
coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, so we'll be around going to different places. Majority of places are, you know, where a lot of our people are, you know, Kampala, Uganda, going to Juba, we're going to Cairo, we're going to go to Gambela, we're going to go to Addis Ababa, we're going to go to Khartoum. So all these places is where our people are, you know. We've just been all over East Africa. So it's going to kick off very soon.
Ooh, I think you're the first Nerve woman I know to tour the whole East Africa. That is massive, you guys. That is huge. So she's going to be in some of those countries, and we will continue to share some of those. So anyone who happens to be in that town when she's traveling, maybe you'll have an opportunity to meet her.
I thank you.
Yeah. So who are the target audience for these books when you go to some of these countries in East Africa? Like, is it schools or just certain villages? How is the whole process going to go through and the people who are getting it?
That's a good question. So the book, there are certain places that it's already sponsored by the university.
Okay.
Like the university in Gambela, I sponsor the event there. So I know for sure it's going to be, our main audience is going to be the students in Gambela. It's going to be the high school or Form 1 and Form 2 students, including the upper division students. So that event is being sponsored by the University of Juba, or University of Gambela. And then the Juba event, which is the biggest event, that event is actually sponsored by the Center for Policies and Strategic in Juba. So they read one of the reviews that was written by one of my readers. They read it and they were really excited to bring the book to Juba. So they called me out. They said, we want the book in Juba, you need to bring it. And they are in collaboration with the University of Juba as well. So that event is going to include the ministry, the ambassadors, and a lot of powerful women, because this is definitely advocating for women rights, human rights, but mainly for women rights and children rights. So that is there. The Khartoum is also a university that hosting that. So I can say the majority of the target audience are going to be our young readers in colleges and in high schools.
So if anyone was coming randomly out of a different place and they're interested in coming to meet you in person, mostly in some of those designated events in universities and those colleges as well.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
that's where you'll commonly find her, you guys. If you're looking for her there in East Africa, any of the colleges or university during the time schedule that she will be on tour. It's definitely one of the places to come, because I'm pretty sure you'll probably be signing books and also, you know, giving some little quotes and inspiration. I had my own. When I opened this, I was flipping through the book and was not expecting this, but this really, really means a lot. And sometimes we just need that little encouragement. We just need that little, you know, that message, like somebody sees your work, somebody sees what you do. And whenever we get, you know, those kind of little messages like that, it's just like a huge reassurance. So I just want to say thank you so much for this amazing letter. I'll probably read it to you guys, but I'll read it at the end. So I'll read it at the end, and then we're going to touch over it. So after we're done talking about the whole tour, how we came to connect and all of this just coming to manifest to life as well. And one of the questions I had is, so while you're over there, what else will you be doing as well, as far as like, I know you mentioned like the women's, are there women's there that, I mean, will they be able to complete this whole book? Maybe, you know? I'm thinking college kids, like the ones that are like in universities and colleges, you know? But even just how are you going to engage with like our mothers, you know, those elderly people who have not really fully come to the English language or the English writing as well? That's something that I'm really curious and would find really inspiring.
Yeah. You know, the right now I already have some plans. In addition to talking about the book and launch and sharing my story to the people, you know, I'm very into leadership, and I'm really into finances. I'm really into that personal development growth. I know there's few people that already reach out to me, especially in Uganda. I have few students, girls especially, that reach out and said they want to have a one-to-one conversation with me when I showed up. And all I said is, make sure you come and find me, introduce yourself, because there's nothing I want more than having a one-to-one presentation with one person, yeah, and getting to know them and just finding out how I can uplift them, empower them with words. So it's not all just going to be talking about me, but I also will be giving out just encouragement and what I can do because I know that's something that they can really use.
I like to see that. I like to hear updates of that.
Yeah.
Yes, having that one-on-one engagement with some of our elders and, you know.
Definitely. In Nairobi, there's an organization that is led by one of our very, very young man, very smart guy, and it's called Teddy Africa. So Teddy Africa is an organization that's empowering women to start their own businesses. And I've been involved with them for over a year now, just helping them. And I'm really looking forward to having a one-to-one conversation in the room with the Teddy Africa women and just talking to them about where are they at, what do they need help with, what can I do to help them, to make sure, you know, because entrepreneur is really important and we need that and we need to encourage it because that really opened the road for independency for our women. So I'm excited about that, meeting that group of women in Nairobi.
We are so proud of you. Like, I can't wait. Once you're done with the whole journey, the whole travel, the East Africa, to hear all about it and how the whole experience went.
Yeah.
And I know here we have, in the beginning of the book, if you purchase the book, there's a review. So a lot of people have gave really wonderful reviews on their thought on the books as well. And, you know, some of the things I can highlight to most of you who have not read the book yet is I was hooked. So this is definitely a story that you will not even realize the time is going by. Mm-hmm. So, and I couldn't put it down. Words like this, when you hear it from other people and their perspective as well, it really tells you and gives you more curiosity about what is in the book. Now, I wanted to ask, what are some of the feedback you've been getting so far from the people who have read your books, or what have they learned and gained from it, or how has it started to make an impact in the community?
It's overwhelmed, okay? It's just really overwhelmed of how much little time it took for this book to reach so many people and to change so many lives already. I want to read you guys just one review. Yes. And these reviews were probably within the first 5 days when the book was released. And initially it was released through, it was a soft copy, right? So only people that can download it and read it through their tablets were the one that sent me these reviews. Mm-hmm. So the hard copy itself just came out in October. And one of the review that even today, like they grade reviews, let me tell you all of them as you already read. Yeah. But there was a review from a young man, let me see. His name is Maud. Okay, right here. His name is Maud and he's in Uganda. Okay. He said, to all the young women and girls across South Sudan and beyond, this book is the right remedy for your struggling souls. To my fellow men, this book contains the right ingredient on how to live in a healthy and loved relationship. Be the change you want to see and start it by grabbing yourself a copy, right? So it's a lot to take in. It really is. Yeah. And there was this young man from Canada. His name is Gatoy Kun. He said, reading your book, I have learned about the man's responsibility in marriage. Although I'm young and haven't started thinking about marriage, I would honestly say I know one or two things I will do differently once my time comes. You are an African hero. So from young men, these are like, they really in their early 20s.
It's guiding them too. Yeah.
In their early 20s, and telling me that they learned something that will make them a better father, a better husband.
Yeah.
When their times come. This almost, I can't say there are negative reviews.
Yeah.
Because maybe people are not, they're not sending me negative reviews. But I have not one time heard anybody say anything wrong about this book. They said when they pick it up and open it, it's hard to put down. Sometimes people put it down because they're crying too much and they can't contain their emotions.
But then they can't wait to jump back in.
Yeah. And they put it away because it's just overwhelmed. Or other times, they just go through it and read it all in one setting. Many people come and tell me that it took them 3 to 5 hours, one sitting, and they read it all in the same time. I went on a conference. I just actually returned from a conference. It's a building sustainable roadmap for South Sudan peace. It's not the correct title, but it's something like that. I just came from there, and yesterday I had the opportunity to speak on that in that conference about women's rights. And after I talked about the lack of women's rights in South Sudan, the lack of child education in South Sudan. And I share in that forum that I wrote a book, and it's to start a conversation of what it's like to be a South Sudanese woman, what it's like to be a South Sudanese girl growing up in these homes. And this is one of the first book, if not the first book, that written from a woman perspective, a young girl in our community perspective, and to share what her life story is like being in that family or in that community. And as of yesterday, from yesterday and half of today, almost 24 books were sold. It's overwhelmed. Like, they just come up. I want to buy a book for my daughter. I want to buy a book. I want to read. It just, people feel like this is the right time to start being honest about what is happening in our communities and to put it in a book. There's no better way than doing that. So to answer your questions, it's going far. It's already had gone far. I just can't imagine what this book going to be doing in the next 2, 5, 10 years. Because if it's touching these many people in such a short time, it's
you have a lot coming for you. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and I feel so supported. I feel, I was very fearful when I wrote the book because it's not something that we do every day to just expose ourselves like that. And I definitely exposed myself. But the support I've been receiving is just, it gave me the assurance to know that we as a Southern Sudanese community, we're ready to be honest and have that hard conversations and say, okay, we know these things should not be happening anymore. How do we stop them? So we're ready.
I can't even comprehend how you do all this. Like, I just can't. So now this is my chance to know something, okay? Fun facts. Give us a little bit of your wisdom behind all of this process and being an author and also having this book out and just become an enormous, huge impact to a community. So give us one knowledge that for some of our future author or, people that are looking to walk in your same route.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be powerful or
it can be, something that you feel like they can learn from, like even if they want to be the next future generation to start writing books or even start sharing their story, because I think our community, this is one of the biggest light is start sharing our stories.
Yeah.
Start telling our stories, because the moment we start to speak out, the healing will start.
Yep.
And this is just day one. This is
agree.
just the beginning.
I agree.
I mean, I don't know if there's any other newer youth out there that has any book, but this is the only book I know. And this opens a light to many more to come. So for those that may be inspired or may walk in your shoes or may want to do what you have done, what one piece of knowledge tip would you give them?
I'll say this. When I wrote the book, I wrote it for the Southern Sudanese girls. I said, I'm going to share my story so that you know that you too can share your story. I wanted to start because I know it was difficult for them to come out at that time in 2020 and say I was raped, I was forced into arranged marriage, my family kicked me out because I got pregnant. And most of them tell me that you're the only one I share it to. I haven't shared with anybody. So for me to say, okay, somebody got to start being public about it. So I said, I'm going to write my story. I'm going to share my story. And when I wrote that story, one of the first things I told myself was I was going to be honest. I was going to be honest. If I'm going to write my story, I'm not going to lie about my own story. I'm going to write it as I remember. You know, of course, some of these are my own perspective, right? But I will say to whoever out there is you cannot help yourself until you become honest with your situation. And when you're honest with your situation, you own it. And nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can take that away from you. And when you go outside of your comfort zone, this is definitely outside of my comfort zone. When you go outside of your comfort zone, that's when you impact lives. We hear the word all the time, closed mouth don't get fed, right? So it's the same thing with life. If you're going to everybody wants to make an impact, everybody wants to help serve and change lives. That's one of the needs as human beings that we have. And you can't help somebody unless you share your story, unless you tell them I've been there. I understand how you feel, or I've been through what you're going through. And then you make connections. You start building those connections with people. So let's share our stories and be honest with your story, because guess what? You probably not the first person or ever going to be the last person that's been through that story or been through that hardship. So the road has been open. Write your story. People are going to love it anyways because it's your story. And chances are they will relate to you because one way or another we all relate as human beings. So that's what I would say.
All right, now I'm going to have you spill a secret.
What?
So I know, like, not just South Sudanese alone, but in Africa as a whole, is that we don't like to start to open up because we fear critics, we fear judgment, we fear all of that, right? So there's still a lot of majority of people, a very high percentage of people that don't know what it feels like after you have let it out. Mm-hmm. After you have shared your story. Mm-hmm. So you have that experience. So give us a secret, like, what is the aftermath? Even if you just tell us in one sentence, like, what is one thing that they could really look forward to and be like, oh, so that's what it does. And, you know.
I think, Yamal, sooner or later, you have to stop caring about what other people think or what they will do or say, you know? Mm-hmm. You have to stop caring about that. So I stopped caring about that not that long, but a few years ago now. But it took me a lot of time. It took me mentorship. Like, I had few women that mentored me through my life, and I watched them, and they talk to me. They pour into me about owning my life and not giving that power to anybody else, not to the community, not to our families. I mean, I'm adult now, right? Yeah. And I still have that fear of my mom or my dad, what they're going to think or what they're going to say. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's my life now. My parents, I respect their opinion. They probably can advise me, but none of them right now can tell me, don't do it. Don't do this. If I put my mind into doing something for my life, like writing this book, they couldn't stop me, okay? Yeah. And I respect them, you know? So for
There's nothing that could hold back everything that needed to be put in.
Yeah, you know, and it's your choice too. If you decide to write your story, you decide what to put in and what not to put in. You know, you've put in what you feel comfortable putting in. Yeah. So that when people read it, you already know, you give yourself permission to talk about that. Okay? So they can't take that away from you. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. Like, even the people that were mentioned in the book, I mean, do they have, has anyone ever tried to, you know, create a backslash towards you or anything?
You gotta have to read the book to find out.
Oh my gosh. She's really giving me the hard assignment.
You gotta read the book.
No.
You know, nobody gonna have a book or a story that is not, it's not surrounded by other people. You know, we don't live in a vacuum. We have other people in our lives. So I couldn't write a book about just Nyayok without my dad or mom, or, you know, so definitely I have people in the book. And there's few that are not always, the relationship wasn't always positive, and you can see that I had a negative relationship with certain people. But they know too, you know. These people had already had the permission before the book was released. You know, they knew, you know, if they were friends, they should have been better friends.
But they're like, oh, it's all in the past now. Like, it's all in the book. It's in the story.
It's in the book. You got to read it.
It's already out there. Nothing anybody can do.
No, it's out there. It's out there.
That is boldness.
I mean, in Nuer language, there's a saying that say, you know, chai bicham, right? Like nobody. Nobody's ever going to swallow you.
That is a really good analogy, yeah.
Yeah, they could talk all they want. They can be as negative as they want. But at the end of the day, you're still going to be walking out, breathing your own air. You know, like...
That is,
so.
That's my first time hearing that, actually.
Oh,
I'm going to start using that on my kids, you know?
It is what it is.
Well,
but you got to read the book. So maybe next time when you finish the book, we'll come back to that question.
Yes.
And we can
then I won't be asking too many questions.
Because
now it's like, since I got a little glimpse into the beginning of the book, now the whole curiosity is just starting to like come in full blown, you know. And after this, going to continue out, and maybe next time we come to the show, there's going to be some interesting things we're going to mention and also talk about as well. So, and I love, you know, the fact that you're so confident, like you're just willing to allow yourself to be you and speak it out as well. So that's what makes, you know, sharing testimony and changing lives real, very real. And like when I asked earlier, you know, like what are some of the things our community would know? Like for me, myself, I would say there's probably a lot of things that I still hold in and nobody knows at all. Sometimes I wonder how I would feel if I let them out as well. But she won't tell me, so I have to go find out.
And you won't know too how it feels until you let it out. You will never know.
Because sometimes we think we know it all. We think we, like, you know, have the whole experience. So I'm very curious on that. So on the next show, we're gonna let you guys know. I think this time we'll definitely have an answer. All right, so we come to the end of our stream here. What would you like to add that our audience can hear that we probably haven't touched on?
Well, I definitely know that every single Sudanese woman, young or old, need to read this book. Okay, because it might be the only book that you will feel like it's talking directly to you, talking about some of the things you went through as a woman. Because we all share very similar life experiences as Southern Sudanese women. And if you're a father, planning to be a father, what better way would it be to start out knowing what to do and what not to do, you know, as a father and a husband. I keep kicking this out. So if anyone has not grabbed this book yet and they have the ability to get it online, I highly encourage that you read it. Read it, and see if it doesn't make your heart just hurt for your nieces and your sisters and your mother. I'm sure you will think about some of the things your own mother went through. I'm excited for the tour, and I truly hope that it will make a difference. I hope it will inspire. It will give those people that really need to know that their dreams is still out there. Even though their life might seem very difficult right now, they will know through my story that mine started out just like that. It was so difficult. I almost killed myself. almost committed suicide when I was 16. So to read it and know where I am now and what saved my life at that time, my prayer is that it will do it will do something similar to somebody who might be going through the same stuff. So I know we have a lot of mental health issues in our community, and I had dedicated a whole chapter about my own mental health and how I went through it all for 2 years. So the book is out. It's out. Whether you are in Western world or you in Africa, you probably already heard about it. And if you haven't heard about it, maybe this is the first time you're hearing about it. And go ahead and read. So.
Amazing. All right, so this is Nyajok Tongyik. Make sure you guys follow her on Facebook, just Facebook, or you have Instagram also?
I have everything.
Okay.
I have Facebook, which is where I'm mostly active,
Yeah.
and then I also have an IG, which now hopefully is going to be more active because I have a young woman who's managing now because I couldn't do it. I was so
a lot of them
behind
are
on
Instagram
IG.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a young woman who is managing that account, and I also have a Twitter, and I'm going to be looking for somebody to manage that account too because I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I know that's where the most of our young people are, is Twitter and IG, and that's my audience. That's who I want to reach. So you can find me. I am my mother's wildest dream on IG, on Twitter, and especially on Facebook. Facebook is, you will see me there every day.
So those three main ones, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Yep.
It is Nyajok Tongyik, or?
Nyajok Tongyik on Facebook.
Okay.
Yep. Nyamagua, and I am my mother's wildest dream.
Okay.
2021 is my IG. The book account is I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream. The book name is on IG. I can put all of that on my Facebook. I think if somebody go on my Facebook, they can find it. They can find all the account there. Oh, yeah. So the IG account is I Am My Mother's Wildest Dream 2021, which is when the book came out. That's the IG account. Facebook is Nyajok Tongyik. My IG, my Twitter is Nyamagua. That's it.
Okay.
So.
All right. So for everyone, all the diaspora, Tongyik is spelled Tongyik.
Yes.
So Nyajok is here on the book, Nyajuk, and then last name is Tongyik. So otherwise, Google it.
That's
I
right.
Am My Mother's Wildest Dream. Google it, and everything else should come in, including her name as well. Definitely appreciate all the support we could give to this young author on her new tour to East Africa as well, and also reaching out to more and more people out there in the universities and colleges and the villages, people in Africa, to share her story, to even have just those one-on-one conversations with those individuals who don't speak English as well. This is very, very inspiring. So we will continue to support that, and we wish her all the best in her tour coming up this end of the summer. Especially if you're in Cairo, if you're in Sudan, Juba, Gambela, Ethiopia, and also Kenya, I believe you mentioned.
And
Kenya,
Uganda.
And Kampala, Uganda.
Yeah.
So those are the major cities I know very well. So if you're in any of those, please check out this book, get a prefix idea, and also follow her on Instagram to get any more further updates on what she has.
I want to ask you something. You know our young artists, Sudanese men in Gambela and in Kampala and in Nairobi?
Yeah.
I want to invite them to these events.
Okay.
But can you invite them?
Hey, you guys, if you are watching this video, make sure you come to this event. There's a real connection to that. And so this is for the, this message is directly, okay, for the North artists, all right? Yes. And we have some of them in Ethiopia. So I'm going to give a shout out to Young MT. I mean, he's really young. He's super young. But I know if you're watching this video, make sure you check this out. Follow this name. She will be coming on tour, so we're gonna try to connect a lot more on that. And then, of course, some of the major artists that we know in Uganda. There's a lot of newer artists there, South Sudanese artists there, in general as a whole. So this event is coming near you. And I will post a lot of it as well on Ellie Nyamal Talk Show page or hashtag Tempo Afric TV. And you'll be able to see a lot of those content, which I know many of you do as well. But it's definitely something to connect to. And I would totally encourage it as well, because I know we have a lot of issues with the way we're trying to come up in the industry. Even just defining ourselves as who we are and what we want to accomplish in life as well. So I'm really glad Nyajok brought this up. So I really want to connect this as well to let everybody know this is for everybody, even those artists and those guys that are in the not acting industry as well. I mean, adding a lot of this testimony into your life, or even just hearing somebody else's story, it is a huge assurance. And I believe that if we continue to step forward with this, a lot would change without any hardship in the industry. It really does. So I can't wait till we come back again. So now I'm like really gonna run home and start reading a lot of this. So I'm gonna find time. I'm gonna make a lot of time, as much as I can, because next time we're gonna come and talk about this, we're gonna get deeper into the reality of the testimonies, all right? Because we want you guys to feel it. We want you guys to be drawn in, to actually understand and really connect to it. So that's where this show is gonna get more interesting in the next one. So we don't know when that will be yet, but it will be announced sometimes in the next couple weeks or months. But check it out. So if you're in Egypt, South Sudan, Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, she's coming near you. Be there.
Right.
So, all right. Thank you so much for coming. And we'll call it a wrap and see you all next Saturday. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you for having me.
We're done, Malik.